Welcome to the final round of the I Am Not a GM Speed Chess Championship on chess.com. I am taking on International Master Roberto Molina. He defeated Lars Oskar Haug on the other side of the bracket in the semifinal. I'm going to take you through the journey of the match, the 5+1 blitz, the 3+1 blitz, and ultimately we will end in the 1+1 bullet section. I'm going to kick things off actually in game number 4. The first 3 games were 1.5, 1.5. So the first game I won, the second game Roberto won, and then we had a draw. Now, these games were super stressful. Both of us were very nervous, taking way too much time, getting super low on the clock. And that was kind of the story of the match. It was like we were both like, you could feel the nerves. Now, this next game that I'm going to show you is a great example of exactly that. I played e4, and I knew Roberto played the Caro-Kann. So I played d4, d5, e5. And the reason I went for this variation is because I was very well aware that he would go bishop f5 because I checked his database, and now I'm going to play h4. Now, if you don't know, this is actually my Caro-Kann repertoire, my course, my e4 course. The link is in the description. Do make sure to check it out. I love this line. For a lot of the intermediate and beginner players, the whole point is that after this, you play g4 and the bishop is trapped. Now, Roberto Molina is slightly stronger than that, and he plays queen c8, and he targets my push g4. So in this game, I play knight c3, and I play bishop e2, preparing g4, and I play g4. And I do it anyway. He goes back, I finish my development, and his whole idea here is he's trying to prepare the move c5. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to shut down this side of the board completely. I chop in with my pawns. This might look super stupid, but I promise it's not. And then I just go like this. Like, he castles long, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go on an attack. Wonderful. Let me keep pushing on that side. Let me finish my development, clamp him down. He tries to create a little bit of counterplay here on his own. I drop my knight back, I sacrifice this pawn, and I play queen to c2. Now, at this point, he plays f5, and I just back up. So the position is super locked. I've got a very easy game plan. Do you know what that game plan is? Winning. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go here, and here, and here, and just storm him on that side of the board. Maybe find a way to bring my rook back. He makes this very easy for me. He just takes my pawn. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Here, and then here? Like, taking my pawn is like a poisoned apple. It just opens up my rook. And so I transfer in my knight. Now I have these kind of laser beams going on here. He, of course, moves his king out of the way, and I play king d2. And my idea is I'm going to bring back my rook. And then he plays here, and I do that, and I just completely blunder. Bishop takes pawn. Like, he lined up the queen, and now his bishop takes, and his... Like, if I had just not done that, if I had just played, like, king to c2, for example, there would have been no counterplay, maybe. Maybe he gets something going here, maybe. But instead, I mean, I just lost the pawn, and I started panicking. And, you know, I went down to, like, 5 seconds on the clock, and Roberto just defended very well. I mean, he just created chances for himself to survive the attack. And then all of a sudden, he did the same thing. He's up, like, 40 seconds to 5. And all of a sudden, he goes down to about 10 seconds. And he starts playing weird moves, and I just sack a piece, because... Let's go, let's sacrifice, because, you know, we got 5 seconds. He plays normal moves. I avoid a trade of queens, and then he just plays king b8. I go bishop a5 with, like, 2 seconds on my clock. And I go here. It's still completely lost. I have no threat. But then he takes. And then he hangs his bishop, because he gets low on time. And then I win his queen. What? How did that even happen? I mean, it was like 40 seconds to 5. We both were trading, like, this kind of nonsense throughout the match. And, you know, I win this game. I win his queen. I take a 2.5, 1.5 lead. You might say it was deserved because I was winning in the opening. Oh, you might say you completely didn't deserve this. He completely threw it away. And we just kind of just traded things like that back and forth. So, for example, the next game, he won, right? He won the next game. And now I'm going to show you the second to last 5+1 game. The opening will look very familiar, right? Bishop f5. Now this time he goes queen to b6. I play knight c3, and I had success with this kind of way of playing this position throughout the match. And this is just the whole point. We get to this position. As ridiculous as this looks, this is actually very good for white. Why? Space advantage, 2 bishops. White is also really handsome, so, you know, that's always good. Bishop b5, And we get this position from the opening where I'm like, all right, I'm clearly better. I'm clearly better to the point that Roberto sacrifices a pawn. He doesn't like his position. He sacrifices a pawn, plays knight d5. You know, I take, and look at this. I mean, I got everything I want. I'm up a pawn. I got dominant dark squared bishop. And then, you know, I castle. I mean, I even got to castle. He can't go here because it's covered. And then he starts to create a little bit of counterplay. He plays this. I'm like, all right, it's time to start thinking. I gotta think. This is really unpleasant. Oh man, this is not good. Rook d3. Oh man, he's coming in. All right, let me just go for it. Then he plays rook c8. And I start panicking because I'm low on time. I'm like, uh-oh, he's gonna take, and then he's gonna like win all my pieces. And then in this position, I'm like, yes, okay, I'm getting back in the game. Let's go. And then he takes, and I go here, and I flagged. I lost on time here. If I play, I can't take, because if I take this, he plays this, and he pins me. But if I just play a5, I mean, I just win the knight, because it's defended with 2 pawns. But I lost. Now, I ended up winning the last 5-1 game, so the 5-1 segment and the 3.5. But as you can see, we're both very nervous, and we're kind of just both being like, no, you take a free point. No, you take a free. It's like being on Oprah. You get a free point. You get a free point. I mean, it's crazy. We're doing charity work for each other. Like, I lost on time. The first game of the match, he lost on time, and that's not even, you know, the end of that. Anyway, I actually won the first game of the 3+1 blitz. So this next game is a 3+1 blitz game. But before we do that, I won the first game. So I was up 4.5 to 3.5. He won the next 2. It was 4.5, 5.5. So I'm down a game. Okay. Now this next game, I was basically playing the Queen's Gambit accepted and entering this variation. Bishop g4 takes e6. And he had been beating me throughout the match with knight c3, knight c6, bishop b5. Not throughout the match, but I didn't like the positions I was getting. He came prepared. He knew I was going to play this. He checked my database. And for this game, I decided I'm going to throw in the move a6. Now, a6 is worse than knight here. It's worse than that move, but it doesn't allow bishop b5. And he has to know what he's doing here. And I was just gambling that he wouldn't know. And he didn't. You're supposed to go here, here, here. This is the way you're supposed to punish me for not putting my knight on one of these 2 squares. Still completely fine, but he didn't know that, and he got me, you know, a totally easy position. I've probably had this position like 50 times in my life, this exact variation. So he goes back, you know, I go e5, he goes take, I go here, knight d4, and we have like a very kind of solid maneuvering position where computer always says white is a touch better. I'm, of course, like, you know, panicking, as always, just bad with my nervous system. Don't really know what to do. Finally, I'm like, all right. Oh, I just spoiled everything. Please disregard. Knight to e4, right? Knight takes, queen takes, rook d1. And here I'm like, all right. Listen, I'm GothamChess. I don't say that to myself, but I've got a video on danger levels. What's worth as much as a queen? A queen. Bam. Look at me, I'm so fancy. He takes my queen, I take his queen. It's check, then I take his rook. And if this, bam, I'm so smart. Look at me, I'm GothamChess. If pawn takes, then this. Oh, except he goes king f1. And I was like, okay, well, this is hanging and that's hanging, so I gotta go here. So if he takes me, bam. Except here the computer ruined my dreams. I thought I was a genius throughout this game. Computer, after the game, was like, you're an idiot, Gotham. Like, it said that. It didn't even say a move. It just said, you're stupid. Just this. And I have no way to maintain vision of the knight. Now, he didn't play that. He played here. And it allowed me to detonate one of my nicest tactics of the match. Knight to g5. Knight takes, and now you don't take back. I say, Gotham, what are you talking about? What do you do then? Black to move, threaten checkmate. Correct. The right answer is king to h8. Just kidding. It's bishop to g3. A ridiculous move, which threatens checkmate. It threatens the rook, and it threatens this rook, and this is still a threat. That's a beautiful move. Bishop g3. When I saw knight g5, I was like, wait a minute. This is why you don't just snap take back. Give it a second. And of course, I analyzed queen f7. I would just come back, and then I would take the rook. And he's losing here. It's a completely losing position for white. I go in with my queen. I go in with my rook. And then here, he was like, oh, free pawn, but he's covering that square. So he took, and I checked him, and if he goes back, it's mate. I was really excited. I'm like, oh, okay. 5.5, here we go. Game on. It's like maybe going to be 2 more games of 3+1 blitz. I'm so good. Bishop G3, because at this point, I didn't know that all of this was bad. I thought that I just played like the immortal game. You know, Bishop G3, oh, I'm so smart, so brilliant. So we go to the next game. I'm rolling. I'm like, all right, C4. First time in the match that I play C4. First time. I'm like, all right, C4. He plays C6 because he likes to go D5. I'm like, all right, Queen A4. You know why? Because now if D5 take, you can't take back with the pawn. You know why I played Queen A4? Because I saw a Magnus Carlsen game, and I'm like, if Magnus Carlsen could do it, I could do it too. Not really, because he's one of the greatest players in the history of mankind, and I'm just an idiot who wears hoodies and makes YouTube videos, but still, Queen to A4, and I got a great position from the opening. I played very interesting chess. I took my opponent out of his comfort zone, and then here I played a super cool idea. I played the move D3, and here's my idea. If he takes my pawn, I'm just going to castle. I'm baiting him into opening the position, even for the cost of 1 pawn, because his queen and king are still in the middle. So he plays here, and I'm like, all right, I'm castled. Okay, I got all my pieces out. He wants to get all his pieces out. Let's attack him. B4. He goes back, B5. He goes here, snap, snap, knight D4. Now I'm threatening this. Even if you push, I'm gonna get right here. The queen's trapped. You gotta sack the rook for it. Of course this is losing for black. At this point, I'm super confident. Like, I play knight D4, I'm like, I look at him on camera, I'm like, yeah, 6.5, 5.5, he goes knight E5, I go here, and then take, and then play F4. And when he played knight C6, I was like, that's such a bad move, I just go queen A4 and I'm winning. And I just blitzed it out. But confidence got the best of me, because by far the simpler win here is just knight D5. Knight D5 wins, and it's not even a question. I hit the queen, I hit the knight. You can't take, you lose your queen. And if you do this, I take, and I hit both. And then I take, and I mean, you're just lost. Like, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna get rid of your knight. You're completely stuck. You can't take because you would pin yourself. But I got so confident, I just played this, and I was like, wait a minute. He's defending very well. And in chess, it's not the first mistake that kills you, it's the second mistake. And I felt here like I needed to do something, because this next move is knight D4. And then he's gonna trade queens, and I have no advantage. Oh no! Sound the alarm! Except, like, any move here is fine. Because even though I'm still down a pawn, he's very passive. But I went all in. And he punished me. I played rook E6. He did this. And all of a sudden, I got no attack anymore. Roberto defended very well. Now I start panicking. I'm like, uh-oh. And he just takes my pawn. And he just called my bluff the whole time. Just kept calling my bluff. Like, all right, stupid, now what? Give me another pawn. And at this point, as always, what do you guys know? Gotham's got 5 seconds. Roberto's got like 30. And I just, got blown off the board. He took a second pawn. He went back to consolidate. And then, I had like 2 seconds and I hung a piece. And then he played this and I resigned because, he just wants to simplify. And with this game, we had one more game of the 3+1. So he's got a 6.5, 5.5 lead. For the rest of the match, we are going to look at the match in full screen mode. And what I mean by that is we are literally going to jump over to full screen mode. This was the next game. As you can see, it was very long. And it was once again a Queen's Gambit declined. It was a Queen's Gambit accepted. And if you see the game, it looks pretty similar. And here's the result of the opening. Got a decent position. In fact, as the game keeps going on, it's a very locked struggle. He hides his king, very locked. We end up in a position, queen and 2 rooks versus, queen and 2 rooks with bishop versus knight. I try to break on the king side. We have a very tense struggle. Look at the time. Even the time is close. And this whole time, I gotta win this game. Let's tie the match. Tie the match, we go to the blitz. Tie the match, we go to the blitz. The bullet. We're gonna go to the bullet. We're gonna tie this match, baby. Let's go. We're gonna tie this match. But look at the time now. Now he has double my time. He's managing his time a lot better. It's a very tense position. Here I win a pawn. I consolidate the position, I'm gonna win a pawn. and I pick up a pawn. Now it's 5-on-4, but look at the time. 12 versus 50. 12 versus 50. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to defend my pawns. If he takes this pawn, he gets all right. All right, he goes back. Now I'm like, all right, we're shuffling around. Look at this. I'm going to infiltrate. Oh, yeah, I'm winning now. Here we go. He plays rook g4. And for some reason, I was like, I don't want to lose any pawns. Even though, of course, you should just go here. Any day of the week, I would play this move. But I'm like, no, I can't lose any pawns. I don't want to lose it. And he goes here. And now I don't have any chance to get in again. So he defends his position very well. And now I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to win his pawn. It's all about simplification. Not only am I not going to win his pawn, I'm going to accidentally blunder a fork. And at this point, I'm like, oh, God. All right, well, it's just a draw. All right, it's fine. It's just a draw. I'm going to go for that pawn. Why? Why? You already made the decision to go for this pawn. You know why? Because when you leave yourself 3 seconds on the clock, your brain turns to mush. Like, I went here, and then I was like, it's actually better to go for the... And then all he did for the rest of the game, he pushed this pawn. His nerves survived better than mine. And he got this. It's a completely winning position for white. Because even though I can go here and stop him, he can check me. That's the point. He checks me, then he queens. If my king was here, like, for example, this position, now there's no check. The problem is he gets everything. In his low time state, he held his nerves, made the queen, and I went down 2 games. And in this position, I had to resign. Now I'm down 2. Now at this point, I damn near had a meltdown. I was down 2 games. I was like, all right, here we go. We got to get back in the bullet. I may or may not have kicked my door when I opened it. All right, I was very mad to lose these 2 games like this. Oh, so mad. But all right, it's time for the bullet. I'm good at bullet. So is he. Here we go. Let's go back to play this English, okay? Let's go back to playing this English. All right, we get a weird position from the opening. This time we play it a little bit differently, okay? Castle long, very confrontational game, opening up the position. I don't know what the hell's going on here, by the way. No idea. I think maybe black is a little bit better, but it's a super wild position. The time, he's even beating me on the clock and bullet, and here I'm like, I've had enough of you. I've had enough of you. Let's just go for an attack. H4. Take, H5. Here we go. We pushing. G5. I'm like, all right, H6. Take it. He takes this. I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. Bang. All right, here we go. We're rolling. At this point, I'm like, oh, God. Oh, God, I'm losing. I'm like, holy crap, I'm losing. Why am I losing? How did that happen? And look at the time. 13 versus 6. I'm like, okay, I got to play fast. So I start playing fast. I start mixing things up. I'm down 2 pawns. I played this one. This was a trap. This move was a trap. If take, I got back rank mate. Or so I thought, because it's a check. And that's going to be very important. Because what ends up happening in this game is I thought I caught him with this move. I was like, he can't take because I take his rook. He goes here. I'm like, oh my God, it's a check. Oh my God, oh no. And then he lost on time. He lost on time here. I know it says 1.6, but he flags. Now I'm only down a game. But, ladies and gentlemen, that would be the last game that I won. That was the last game that I won. The first game of the bullet. The next game was a brutal fought draw. Then he won. Then he won again. And then this game was heartbreaking. I think it's here. This was a 125 move game. This game sealed the match because the clock was running for 6 minutes. At this point, I needed to win. I didn't need to draw. I was down 3 points. The problem is, this game went so long. And he just kept on playing. And completely, that I would have done the same thing. But this was great match strategy from him. Don't take the draw. Let the clock run out. Let the timer run. And he did. And this game went 125 moves. And that sealed the deal. In the next 2 games, I didn't feel like playing. But unfortunately, you have to play all the way down. And with that, my opponent, Roberto Molina, defeated me 12.5, 7.5, and he won the I'm Not a GM Speed Chess Championship. You know, this was a brutal match. In many ways, you know, when you lose a match, like, the match happened literally an hour ago. I feel terrible. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel awful. I feel like I missed so many opportunities, and it sucks because I know what I'm capable of, but I totally don't perform up to par. And it's nerves. There is a reason I'm constantly with 5 seconds on my clock. It's something to do with my inability to, go. He had that. He had the ability to start the game and finish it, from start to finish, and maintain tranquility. Whereas as the games were going in and out, my defensive skills were not there. I was not able to hold bad positions long. He was able to defend positions that might have been unpleasant, and the time management was the killer. And I want to say that I'm going to learn moving forward, but the problem is I don't compete much anymore. I only make content. And I've had my most success in life in chess when I was consistent. I would train, I would play, I'd come back, I'd analyze it, I would train, I would play, and so on. Right now, this is the only competitive thing I've ever done, and it's weird because it's online, and I've never played 5-1 or 3-1, so I don't really know how to learn from it, because I'm never going to play these time formats again unless I'm invited for the next edition. But it was a lot of fun, The openings were fun, analyzing new lines for all these different players. I'm going to definitely internalize all this opening information, and it was fun making the recaps, I post a lot of highlights of my stream or my chess, so it's nice to kind of be humbled and be sent back down from orbit, Losing is good. Losing too much is not good. Losing every now and then is fine. We pick ourselves up and we just get better.